I think volunteering matters because it comes with the voices of our community.
Hi everyone, I'm Steve Stoller.
And I'm Shauna Haley, and this is Inside Plano, where we take you behind the scenes of our city.
We'll introduce you to the faces and places who help make this a great place to live.
And give us lots of reasons to love Plano. Well, it's Inside Plano, it's June, and I can tell you I have honestly been waiting for this month for at least the last 8 years that I've been with the city.
This is my favorite time of the year.
Yeah?
I love spring. I love the beginning of summer. It starts getting warm again. You can go swimming again.
That's because you love the outside. Meanwhile, I'm just sitting and sweating and dying. But I'm not going to be sitting and sweating at the beginning of June. I promise you, I'm going to be celebrating, and I don't care. It's because June is Plano's sesquicentennial. And I've been waiting all year to be able to use that word too. It means that Plano is turning 150.
And we've been working on making things very, very special for this very special moment in our history. From special exhibits at the libraries, fun activities at Parks and Recreation, and of course the big birthday bash in Haggard Park on June 3rd. We're going to be celebrating Plano's birthday all year long.
Absolutely. And, just to give our listeners a little bit of background, I know I don't really have this in our script, but we noticed not long after I started with the city 8 years ago that when we posted a retro picture of Plano to celebrate our anniversary at the beginning of June, it was always our most popular post on Facebook. And we thought, there's something about the spirit of community and this love for our city. And so we really have been looking forward to celebrating 150 years. And, speaking of spirit of community, I think that's one thing that makes Plano really special. Our community is very, very involved. Our citizens are dedicated to giving back to make this a great place to live. And while that takes place in many ways, we have tons of nonprofits, tons of faith-based organizations. Most notably for us here in the city is volunteer service and how that plays out.
Our volunteer program never ceases to amaze me. Today we've asked Corina Sadler, our dear friend, volunteer resources supervisor, to join us for a conversation about ways you can get involved with the City of Plano. We're going to talk about volunteering and a very special initiative that's underway to celebrate Plano at 150 years. Welcome back to our podcast, Corina.
Thanks for having me back.
It's good to have you.
Excited to chat.
And you know the routine. We always start by asking our guests whether there's something about them we haven't heard before, something we don't know. What is it this time?
Yeah, so something new for me since the last time that I visited and had a chat would be for the last year I've been serving as a state commissioner for the state of Texas over national service and volunteering. So not everyone might know that there is a commission describing what service is like for Texas and then really spearheading initiatives through AmeriCorps service and volunteering.
So you're over our VIP program, which stands, of course, for Volunteers in Plano. This has also been a very special year for VIP.
Yes, we have celebrated 40 years this year. Super excited. Not every municipality has a centralized volunteer program. I get calls all over the country asking, how do you do this? What is your program like? How have you been in existence for 40 years? What do your volunteers like to do? What are your staff initiatives around service? And so it's really exciting to have that milestone when I'm at the helm.
Well, Corina, can you explain? We talked about this a little in the last podcast, but it's been a hot minute since then. So how do we actually use volunteers to get work done in the city?
Yeah, so every department has the ability to decide what community engagement will look like for them. Some of our departments work really closely with myself and my team to identify opportunities when they have larger initiatives to say, okay, how can we get people involved? And that might look like volunteerism. We then have daily operational needs where the books need to be put back on the shelves, our cats need to be adopted out, our dogs need to be walked at the animal shelter. So some of those are really cyclical types of positions. And then we can innovate and we can look ahead about what's the future of volunteering at the City of Plano.
So I was looking through your 2022 annual report and some really big numbers in there, a little surprising actually. Can you talk about the volunteer impact for last year?
Yeah. So we had 7,521 volunteers. They gave 67,786 hours. But they are more than hours. They are more than just numbers. They are our neighbors. They are advocates for our services and our programs. They are an incredible force that gets mobilized whenever we make the call. If I put out the call that the city needs help, they respond. It's really incredible to see the relationships that we have. But to put a value on those hours is over $2 million in value added back to our city.
Can I ask a
Sure,
quick
go ahead,
question? So
please.
when we talk about value added back, you're saying we didn't have to spend this money to get this done. This is the value that the volunteers provided, correct?
You could think of it that way for sure.
Okay.
Corina, the pandemic obviously had a big impact on volunteering. What are the participation levels now? Are we back to pre-pandemic levels?
So pre-pandemic, we were at about 10,000 at our highest year, which was like a record year, which was incredible. A lot of that has to do with the weather. When some of our biggest events get rained out, we take a hit, like Great American Cleanup and some of our Love Where You Live programs that are really reliant on great, beautiful Texas weather. So we're still rebounding, but the great thing since the pandemic is that we never turned off our online presence on our website. So people were able to continually apply, and we've grown these really incredible waiting lists of people that we can put those calls out to. And so they feel like they're connected to us. They get regular updates. Some of them have signed up for our newsletter. And so being able to stay in touch during that time, I think we've seen an incredible amount of new faces and new people joining lots of different types of volunteer opportunities we have.
What are some of the more unusual volunteer opportunities that people may not have heard of before?
That's a good question. So I think one of my favorites would be a bingo caller at the Sam Johnson Recreation Center for adults 50 plus. They take their position very seriously. Bingo is a big deal at the SJC, and so I think that's a position where you have to be a people person and be excited to be in front of a crowd that's playing and really energized, but also follow the rules. Very important in bingo. And then the second one would probably be Plano Animal Services Pups in the Park. So I love that name. Volunteers came up with that, I believe. And so we have volunteers that are trained to actually take dogs from the shelter environment, take them outdoors in their own vehicles, and go to one of our amazing Plano parks and be able to walk them, give them that leash experience, get them acclimated to being outdoors with strollers and strangers and passersby, and have them be prepared to be adopted.
And believe it or not, speaking of Plano 150, we have a team of volunteers in our offices right now. We're recording a little ahead of June, and they've been there for 2 weeks, just rotating through, wrapping presents to give away. And I remember some of our newer team members said, "There's no way we can wrap 7,000 presents." And I said, "Let me call Corina." And
Yes.
we're putting a wrap on that project,
Yes.
thanks to the efforts of those volunteers. So thank you, Corina, for helping on that. So we know you love all of our volunteers and the work that they do. I mean, many, many great stories. Do you mind sharing some of your favorite impact stories of the work that they've done?
So many stories. So I've been at VIP for 15 years. I can't believe it. I was hired when I was 5. But just kidding. So lots of stories. I mean, we have incredible volunteers that send me emails, call me when they move away, just to show appreciation. Our volunteers that had a great experience. One that comes to mind, actually, this has happened a few times, where we have a teen volunteer program. It's typically for students ages 13 to 18. When they complete the program and they graduate and they go off to university, many of them I don't hear from after that, right? I wish them well, and I know they're doing great things. But sometimes, here recently, their parents, when they prepare for retirement, remember their child in the VIP program and call me and say, "Hey, I'm looking ahead to retirement. I want service to be part of my retirement plan. I know my kids had a great time at VIP. What do you have for me?"
Oh, wow.
And so I get to hear what happened with their children, where they graduated from, they're getting married, all the exciting life things that happen. And then their parent gets to join the program and continue that relationship that we've built. Because a lot of our retirees stay here in Plano. And so that's been an incredible impact, just to keep those relationships. We have siblings that then come in, and friends and family. So I think those connections to service are really powerful, and it's also like a trusted, when you, like, word of mouth, right? You trust that this is a great experience, and we do our best to provide that. And then another one would be, here recently, we had one of our police volunteers recognized at the county level. He won Volunteer of the Year for Volunteer McKinney. Our Victim Services Unit at the Plano Police Department has been working with Andy Good for several years, but they also got to know him and how much he serves across our county in other cities and other nonprofits, and they took it upon themselves to nominate him for this county-wide award. And I thought that's really special for the staff to believe so much in their volunteers and want them to be recognized as far and wide as possible. So thank you, Andy and Victim Services Unit, because they are such a great team and they help so many people.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, moving beyond opportunities to serve with the city, it is our 150th anniversary, and we've been working on an exciting initiative to partner up with volunteers. So can you tell folks a little bit about 150 Acts of Service?
Yes, 150 acts. Being able to hear from the community about what service looks like to them is really interesting, because we, through VIP, we get a really formal sense of volunteering. As a local government program, we have an application, I have some processes, but service happens everywhere. And it looks like many different things to our various communities in Plano. So I think it's a great way for us to reach out to the community and ask, kind of, how do you serve? What does that look like? And tell us about it. And so service would be different things to different people, whether I mow my neighbor's lawn because I know that they can't get out there early enough in the summertime and it's really hot. That's a really nice act of service in your neighborhood. You might send out a neighborhood newsletter for recycling day and go the extra mile to make sure people know how to recycle, and send them a link or a great YouTube video that the city puts out. So there's lots of different ways, but I feel like 150 Acts of Service is going to be a neat message to try to collect some of those stories and really find the language of service that's in Plano. I see even on like LinkedIn, someone in Plano paying it forward, paying for someone's coffee at the coffee shop. And I thought that was so nice, and I don't hear about, smaller acts of service, but it still can be really inspiring, because when you're on the other end, it's really nice just to, have someone help you out.
Well, Shauna, why don't we go to the lightning round?
Oh, do you want to go to the lightning
I
round
think
already?
we should, because
all right.
Karina answered the last two questions.
Well,
in
you know
her...
what? Well, that's true. And I mean, I would hope that, just for myself, that we get a spirit of community coming out of that, to understand how people are giving to one another. And it's encouraging, right, when you hear those stories. All right, so the lightning round is just where we ask you very simply 10 quick questions. I know they may not feel quick to you, but they're common questions that we get and that you all field, and so hopefully they feel pretty familiar. So the first one, if you're ready, is, how can someone find a volunteer opportunity with the city?
Okay, you can start at volunteersinplano.org, or you can give me a call directly, shoot me an email, or anybody at VIP. We're happy to help.
All right. Well, will you work with me to build a custom volunteering opportunity for my company? Kind of a curate an experience.
I will give it my very best. We have an incredible business community in Plano. They are so giving. Many of them have their own very specific initiatives. We've done tree planting, neighborhood revitalizations, the Plano Community Garden, some pop-up things at the libraries. So yes, we are open and ready to discover what service might look like for a company as well.
Do I have to volunteer with a group?
You don't have to. No, you can. We definitely have individual opportunities, and then the groups is kind of one of those areas where we're rebounding. And part of what I do at VIP is to help with that capacity building, to go to the departments on behalf of our community and say, how can our residents engage? Where is the need? And identify what that is. And if it's groups, well, let's find it. If it's more individuals that are looking, we can discover some of those too.
Can you help students find internships?
Oh, that's a great question. So we have done, unpaid internships, and then we have a great partnership with the Plano Mayor's summer internship program. We've had many of our teen volunteers actually receive a paid internship through that program. So yes, the hub of information for internships as much as we can.
How old do you have to be to volunteer as a teenager?
Oh, that's great. So for the libraries, we start at 13, and then our recreation center programs, 14 and up, and then others, it just kind of depends on which department it is. But I think our Plano Public Library teen program is our most popular, and so they're 13.
So, we are kind of in that time frame where kids are graduating high school and going on to college. So I know a lot of parents are thinking ahead for next year and wondering, can my student earn service credit hours?
Popular question. I was actually just at Rice Middle School for their National Junior Honor Society induction ceremony. So it's on my mind this week as well. Yes, we do offer credit. The schools love their students to come out and volunteer with the city. And so we have that. And we also have the President's Volunteer Service Award opportunity for teens as well, who serve over 100 hours a year.
Are there opportunities for students younger than 13?
We do have some family volunteering where they could come with a parent. It just depends on the department and sometimes what they're interested in doing. And so we'll see what we have.
Do you screen applicants?
We do screen. I mentioned we are a formal department for volunteerism, so we do have an application, and we do other additional screenings depending on the department.
Do you provide training for volunteers?
Yes, for most opportunities, maybe not creating birthday boxes like we've been doing this week. That's pretty easy to get in there and do quick. But for some of our more challenging positions, like working with adoptable pets at the shelter or working at the Gazebo Cafe at the Sam Johnson Rec Center, we definitely provide food safety training and then other hands-on training by our paid staff.
All right. Well, this is more of a philosophical question, but why do you think volunteering matters, Corina?
Gosh, that's a very deep question.
It is.
Shauna.
I know. It's not really a quick lightning round question, but it does tell us a little bit about Corina Sadler.
I think we have to understand the bigger picture of our community and where their values are, where they give, and then where they serve really tells the story. I love when I see volunteers getting together and they see one another and they say, gosh, you look familiar. Where do you volunteer? And then they start a discussion about where they each volunteer. And I've seen this happen a lot now that we're coming back so much more in person. And that means something. To have a story of where you serve or how you serve, even if it is helping in your neighborhood or through your civic club, it's really important. And I think we need to raise the visibility. At the state level, it's something that I hear often that Texas runs on volunteers. But if we don't hear the voices of our volunteers and their stories, and that's why I'm excited about the 150 acts of service, we might forget, right, how much we are helping one another in times of success and then in times of difficulty. I think hearing from people is really important. And so I think volunteering matters because it comes with the voices of our community.
Corina, thank you so much for joining us today. And I know Sean and I are both very excited about the kickoff of the 150 Acts of Service this month. And we hope a lot of our listeners will let us know what their acts of service are.
We'll drop information into the show notes on how you can log your acts of service and that way get that information out. But otherwise, that's a wrap for another episode of Inside Plano. And of course, Corina, we'll have you on our guest list again because there's just always so much to talk about when it comes to volunteers. Listeners, you've been doing a great job of sending us questions and comments for us to include in future podcasts. Please keep doing that. Ask Plano at plano.gov. We love to get your feedback, and it's really encouraging to us and helps us think through things that are interesting to you. So until next time, talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And that's it for our Inside Plano. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did doing it.
If you have any comments or suggestions, send them to us at askplano@plano.gov. Bye.
Talk to you next month. The Inside Plano podcast is brought to you by the City of Plano.